On the 27th, toward dusk, me and 3 of my brothers set out to clear a building. We moved in quietly, carefully. 2 of us covered the approach, while 2 went in closer, pulled out grenades and tossed in 2 right away. And while the chaos was unfolding, while the explosions were going off, my brother jumped in, then me. The other 2 stayed outside, making sure none of them tried to dash out onto the street. With fire cutting through the building, we began the assault. We dumped about 3 or 4 mags each, then started shouting at the Russians to surrender, and they began crawling out. When we pushed inside, on the right, there was some kind of booth. They were hiding in there. On the left, in the corner, another group had taken cover. Turned out there were 15 of them in total, and there were just 4 of us going in. We were the first to storm into those shacks, pulled out 7 from there. The rest we dragged out from the pit. We laid them down. Just grenades alone, 126 of them. There was an SVD sniper rifle, a PK machine gun, 7.62 caliber, 1 more light machine gun, 4 AK-12s. The rest were AK-47s, 5.45 caliber. We lined them up by the wall, tied their hands. Of course, we checked them first, to make sure none of them had a grenade hidden in their hand, tucked under a belt, or a knife stashed away. Reported to command, to the battalion commander. And we waited from dusk until morning, so we could move them out in small groups down to the river and hand them over to our guys, who would take them further, because we couldn't go in there and do the extraction ourselves. Our task was this. We stormed the building, captured the Russians, passed them on. Then we kept moving forward, clearing the city. The emotions. They were spiritual, electric, goosebumps crawling over your skin. Because when 4 of us come in and take down 15, well, that's a massive difference. And later, when I saw all that weaponry they had stockpiled, you understand yourselves what could have happened if it had gone the other way.
Listen, they really could have reacted at that moment and started throwing grenades at you, but they didn't. Why do you think that happened?
When we rushed in, there wasn't a single moment when bullets weren't flying out of our weapons. Not a single moment. When one of us was firing, the other was reloading, and we kept it all coordinated by voice. He'd yell, "Empty." I'd shout back, "I'm covering," while he reloaded. They didn't stand a chance, because the fire never stopped. When they finally started crawling out, hands up, that's when we stopped shooting, just kept them under control, stacking them up in a pile. That's how we pulled them out, one after another, piling them up. Then we searched each one, lined them up against the wall, tied their hands, and sat them down. When I pulled the last of them out of that shack, 7 in total, I asked, "How many of you are there?" One of them said, 15. And right then, I felt a chill run through me, just cold, but we didn't lose our heads. They came in on the 24th, crossing the river on foot. Nobody brought them in, they moved on their own. A drone guided them, and that's how they entered the building. From the interrogation, we learned that on the 28th to 29th, they were planning to split into small groups and launch an assault straight at our position, but they never got the chance. They came in on the 24th, and by the 27th, we already had them captured. That site we took was like a bone stuck in their throat. There was a passage there, and they wanted to push closer to the river, to take positions along the bank so our brothers wouldn't be able to cross over to the other side. The hardest part was figuring out how to get them out.
And how did you move them?
We led them out in groups of 5.
Did you have cover?
Yeah, my brother covered us with the machine gun. When we approached, he covered. When we pulled the Russians out in groups, he covered from the gun too.
Може, ну давай.
Може вилізе та їбану, сука, разочок у голову.
Давай.
Зроблю йому предупредительний вистріл у голову.
So basically, I was standing with a PKM, the so-called P-catch machine gun, at a window from the hive. That's roughly about 70 meters away, I was covering their assault. Since I had the radio, I could hear parts of what was going on, and I understood everything was going fine for them. They were holding the position where the Russians had been. The next day, they spent the night there, and then started bringing the prisoners out. They did it in 3 groups. The first group came out, and of course, I was waiting for them at that position. They came in, dropped all the trophies, their backpacks, weapons. They were disarming themselves right there at the spot where we had originally been, the place the assault had kicked off from.
And what about drones?
We picked a time when the drones flew off for recharging.
Время в нас там неправильно йдуть. 7:20. Наблюдаємо з дідом з самого ранку. Їмо батончики.
We listened. The command, the battalion commander, he was looking at the sky too. Clear or not, it didn't matter. And we moved in groups like that, pulling people out. Everything was clearly laid out by the commander, because our commander is a real combat man. He did his part, we added ours, and together we came to the right decision.
Since we live in a humane, democratic country, if there's a chance to either execute or pardon, we try to pardon. At that time, the fighting in Vovchansk was very intense. Hurricanes, grads, 120, 80s, 82s, basically all kinds of weapons the Russians had, they threw at us.
Хотів, коротше, показати, що вони нам пітушки. Опа, єбать. Рве і мече. Коротше, така хуйня. Трошки наш укрепрайон, вони тут, блядь, і урагани релом падали, і гради. Ну, коротше, піздець.
I'll be real with you. Before this, I did time. Gave a guy a loan, 151,000. He didn't pay back, so I took it by force. He's fine, alive, but I ended up locked up for it.
It happened that I ended up in prison. I did. I've always had a real talent for mechanics. Well, it turned out I committed a car theft. Before Shkval, I hadn't served, but I really wanted to join the army. And here I got the chance. I called the Ministry of Defense hotline, said I wanted to go to the front to defend my land, my people. I have a son, I have a daughter. I'm fighting for them, for my neighbors, for the women and children, so that there's order on our land, so no one comes here telling us how to live. And I don't regret for a single minute that I came here.
Горить, палає, техніка ворожа, рідна Україна переможе. Шквал рулить.